So in the last update for the devlogs, Rowan couldn't even equip and unequip his weapons without, breaking. He couldn't do it without his animations following along with that. But I finally got it working, and it took a lot of work, but we made it. And I want to show you guys how I did it. The first step was reimporting Rowan. I fixed his skill, corrected his collision issues, and stripped all of his weapons from the Blender export. The only thing left was the crystal on his hip, which will come into play way later for the crystal systems that I have in mind. Originally, I tried keyframing the weapon visibility in Blender, but the interlay system and the transform mixmasters made it impossible for things to keep consistency. I literally tried for probably about a good week trying to make those keyframes work, and I was doing it pretty correctly, but for some reason it just wasn't wanting to export into a GLB. So yeah, I decided to reroute how I was doing things with that. I changed my entire approach. I parented the sword to the hip bone for the idle, well, the sword handle, and then I made a duplicate where it was the sword and the actual sword handle once again, but that was parented to the hand. And that was going to be for the equipped mode, and obviously the other one was going to be for the when he's unequipped. But I did this all directly inside of Godot instead of doing it inside of Blender. That was the key difference. Then I added a set weapon visibility function in code, tied to my equipped and unequipped animations. I even set up per animation speed controls in the inspector so I can fine tune pacing without digging straight into the codes every time, because that was quite annoying. Here's the results pretty much. The sword switches from the hip straight to the hand with the animation exactly how I wanted it to. I need a little bit more tweaking when it comes to the timing, but it works very well for now. Now when it comes to the level, there's not really that much changes that needs to be done to it. Maybe I might add a little bit more details over time, like rocks and stuff. But for now, it's still pretty good as far as me not working on, getting baked lighting or anything like that in there. However, one thing that was a really big issue to me, considering that I switched my foreground and background from different things, is I really wanted there to be an invisible wall so that way the player wouldn't fall through. So I had to learn how to set that up with collision walls and making them invisible and stuff like that. It wasn't terribly hard, but I will say that my current setup with it and layout isn't the best. However, it does get the job done. It just needs a little bit more cleaning and fine retuning. I also did some texel density cleanups inside of Blender. That came from a person on, I think, either TikTok or YouTube, and I wanted to say thank you, and I will put a shout out to this person because I didn't know anything about this, so he taught me something new. And it wasn't really that hard to clean up, and I might not even have did it the best. However, just knowing it, it existed and stuff like that, I decided to, work on it myself and try to see what I can do. I also redid the face of Rowan because every single time I would open it up in Godot, he had those little streaks, and I assumed it was because I did do my textures at 64 by 64, but I had it for some reason on a bigger white background, so it was picking up some of that from it. I ended up not redoing the whole face, I just resized it into a bigger square so it actually took up the whole 64 by 64 square in Photoshop, and it took away that whole problem, so that was a success on my part. Now for shader and effect controls, this is going to be something that I feel myself tweaking a lot over time. It doesn't look that bad right now, but it's also not the best looking, but it does look pretty authentic to me. You guys let me know in the comments, but yeah, I'm still working on it. It's a little grainy right now, and I don't know. It has a little bit of charm, but like I said, it could use a lot of work. But I'll let you guys look at it for now, and you guys can tell me what you think. Maybe give me a little bit more tips on that. I'm doing it in a very simplified. Well, I wouldn't say simplified. I'm using a shader code. Thankfully, there's a good bit of videos out there, so I kind of just went with some of them and kind of recreated something. But with that being said, this is pretty much the end for this devlog. I know there wasn't a lot of that much new stuff being made. However, there was a lot of, recreation and repolishing stuff just to get into a better state than the, beta beginning presets that they were already at. The first proxy animations did the job well, but it's time to start stepping it up a notch and at least getting a little bit of a better look and stuff like that. So I decided to do a lot of rework, and it took me quite some time. That's why this video is a little behind, but it's still a lot of progress that was being made, and now we have a fully equipped and unequipped system. So I think that's a W in my book. But next up, I have a few more ideas in my list of development, and I'm going to be working on the crystal system, like I said. It's a bit of a, how can I say this? a way to track objectives in the game later on. So I think it's going to be a little cool idea for the game at least. And then, you know, what everybody's really most excited for right after that is going to be getting straight into learning how to build the combat for my system. I'll give you a little bit of hint of it. The combat system is going to be split between environment mode and the actual action mode. However, the action mode is going to be fully combat, real time, no turn based, like the old JRPGs. I'm just taking a little bit of inspiration from the JRPGs and kind of combining them to make kind of like I wouldn't say a new thing, but you know what I mean. Real time fighting in the actual arena, whenever you make contact with an enemy, and in the environment, being able to break breakables, interact with buttons and stuff like that, and first hit people. But anyways, thank you guys for watching this devlog. It means a lot to me. I've been getting a lot of support and a little bit of attention. That goes a long way, especially for somebody who's starting out and learning all this for the first time. But I'm very appreciative of you guys, and like I said, if you want to keep following me on this journey and everything, giving me tips, giving me ideas for the game, or just straight up support, and absolutely do that. And I appreciate every single one of you guys. So like I said, I will see you guys in the next devlog. I'll keep you updated with shorts as fast as I can. And until then, have a good one.